Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here, hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Yes, Jamaica was was still colonial. I got my first job in Jamaica at the Halfway Tree Courts.
Okay.
And they employed me. And after about 2 months, I worked in that job for 2 months. And then they fired me.
Wow.
Fired me from the court because the court administrator said they didn't realize that I have dreadlocks when they were hiring me. And so they gave me my dismissal letter.
Wow. So you yourself face discrimination as a result of your faith in your home country. What did that make you feel like?
Make me realize I have to fight more.
Yes.
I have to fight more because when I reach nowhere yet.
Yeah.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Alex, we're going to get on the 47445 and I'm going to go bang it tire. But the blockade with them put on Cuba and Zimbabwe. Not rules. Hey, the Dejazmatch. Start them now.
Sometimes in this life you have to go your own way. Me pray for me brothers in Zimbabwe. For me Cuban sisters, I see them and say the Almighty love all of the people same way. Me tell Babylon them fi open up the gate. Zimbabwe she reclaim her land, that's great. Me love the way the people in Cuba get educate. Me have to ask them in the West why them are so full of hate.
Them hate Mugabe and them hate Castro. Them come with them blockade and them embargo. Cause Castro tell them no and Mugabe tell them go. Them want exploit the land and take with for fool. Brainwash education and use and mislead the youth. Them kill Trayvon and them shoot Martin Luther. And millions dead in Nigeria what they and still not make the news. Mafia trample Babylon and them Gideon boat.
Sometimes in this life you have to go your own way. Me pray for me brothers in Zimbabwe. For me Cuban sisters, I see them and say the Almighty love all of the people same way. Me tell Babylon them fi open up the gate. Zimbabwe she reclaim her land, that's great. Me love the way the people in Cuba get educate. Me have to ask them in the West why them are so full of hate.
Me love how the people of Cuba them educate. Me have to ask them in the West how them are so full of hate.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an actionist, I'm an artist, and right now I am the host of the Lion's Voice. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network and welcome to a special edition of Lion Talk, where we hear the lions tell their own story. Tonight we have a very special guest. This is a very special episode for Our guest today has had special importance and I'm on personal trust as a Rastafari attorney. We use the word pioneer, we use the word trailblazer, we use all kind of words to describe those who have gone before I. And today we have such a guest who has blazed a trail as it relates to Rastafari in the field of law, community work, and just a legacy of work over decades. Last night, for those who are watching this, we had a episode where we talked to Ras Tafari Tafari of Frontline Publishing, and he spoke that this man was like his brother and about the great works that they had done. I can tell everyone that my very first tete drum, which I have here for this interview, right here, was given to I by this guest. And I still use it to this day to slap up the Vatican room. Who am I talking about? Lion Pride. I'm talking about the great Ras Miguel Lorne. Welcome, Ras Miguel, to the Lion Talk, and welcome to the platform.
Greetings and blessings, and I am honored. I'm honored to be on the platform. Each day that I think of the work, I think all that you have done so far, it coming like the work has just begun. Because when I went to Suriname, and I went amongst the Surinamese Maroons, they asked me to take them back home to Africa. I haven't done that yet. When I went to Ijasagoro, the birthplace of His Majesty, when I went to the church there, the priest asked me if I would, the church need repairs, and the priest asked if I would assist in the repairs of the church there. I told him yes. So I haven't fulfilled that yet. So I went somewhere else again, and the Panafricanist people asked me to take them back home. I did meet with a governor from the Mashoni province in Zimbabwe, and I did ask him, would he be able to accommodate the Maroons from Suriname to come home? And he said yes, the land is big, woolly there, and so on. So we did start the preliminary talk, but these are works I can tell you from now that I have to fulfill within due time.
We give thanks for your diligence and your commitment to community over the years. How we do it on Lion Talk is that we want to get your journey. So please, let's start from the beginning. Where were you born? What was your upbringing like? Were you born into the Rastafari movement? You know, just take us back to the genesis of Ras Miguel.
No, I was born at number 1 Mission Road. Mission Road. So from birth, I was born to fulfill mission. But the Mission Road is in the Kingston 13 era of the grassroots era. I don't use the word ghetto. The grassroots era of Kingston, off Walton Park Road. So it's in that region I was born. I was born on the 22nd of March 1953, and I wasn't born into Rastafari. But as I grew up in a yard with enough Rastas. Eventually I moved from 1 Mission Road to 37A Lincoln Avenue. And at that yard at Lincoln Avenue, there was a brother by the name of Gladson Anderson. And he had a piano, and he used to play the piano. And it is in that yard at 37A Lincoln Avenue that reggae music was born. Gladdy was the first man. I'm doing a book now on Gladdy because he wrote a book, a hardcover exercise book, and gave me. And I didn't realize that that was his last will and testament, as it were, because that's all he gave me. And when his family contacted me and asked if he left a will, I told him no. It's years after that I realized, when I'm going through his file, that technically his book was his last will and testament. Gladdy was a man, Gladson Anderson, was the man who invented ska, rocksteady, and reggae. I know people are gonna find it unbelievable that is one man who invented those three genres of music. So I'm committed to putting out that book, which I'm working on now. Growing up in the grassroots era, you and Tangle, I went to Rasta Primary School, which is not too far from my home. I went to Rasta Primary. From there, I took scholarship, what they call now PEP, but at that time it was a scholarship. And I passed for Woolmer's Boys, and that's where I did my secondary education. From Woolmer's Boys, I went to the University of the West Indies, and that's when I studied law. So it has been in the grassroots here, it has been a tumultuous journey.
Yes.
I remember when I went to Barbados to study law, the first letter my mother sent me, it had in 10 pounds. You know, she always had this habit of putting the money in the letter and actually come to, and I don't really remember losing any, because she always put, if it's even 2 pounds, if it's even 5 pounds. But I remember the first letter she sent, it had in 10 pounds, and that was such a glorious 10 pounds. Because when it changed out in Barbados, it changed out enough.
Yes.
In Barbados, the dollar was much higher than ours, and that's a journey I would start.
So when did Rastafari, or when did you identify Rastafari that this was the track that you were going to take?
Well, I wanted to, I would consider myself Rasta from about 15, 16. But of course, within my mother's house, you know, I grew up with a stepfather, so I mostly relate to my mother.
Yes.
And within my mother's house, I couldn't exhibit because I had to wear a tam almost every day, you know, and so on. So when I go on the road, I put on my red, gold, and green tam. But when I'm in my mother's house, I put on an ordinary black tam, or blue tam, or gray tam, you know. So now going to university now, especially going to Barbados, then it gave me the freedom now that I could now dash for the scissors and comb.
Okay. So as a university student, and I too put on my covenant in university. I reasoned with Ras Sekou. He also put on his covenant in university. So I'm seeing a trend here. You know, so I'm in good company. I'm in very good company. So
we couldn't put it on at home.
Yes.
Matter what you.
So talk about what was Rastafari like in those early days as a university student? Did you connect with any other Rastas in Barbados? What was your experience like now that you put on your covenant in university?
But before university, in Jamaica's independence in 1962, where I live, and I distinctly remember that day as a little youth. There was a Rasta man who was riding a bicycle up and down the road. And he kept saying, "Where is the red? Where is the red?" And I didn't understand him much. You know, I was about 10, 12 years old at that time. So I asked my mother, I said, "Why is he saying, where is the red?" And she said to me, "They have left out the red out of the flag." I never forget that. And I saw the Rasta man, I asked him, and he said, "Yes, they have left out the red, and it's not the true flag." And until this day, the Jamaican flag have been black, green, and gold, and they have left out the red, which they should have put in the red.
Yes.
So that stand out to me as a little youth within Rastafari. The other aspect is that the yard that I grew up in, because Gladdy and piano. And remember in those days, artists didn't have enough money to go to studio, go rehearse.
Yes.
They might rehearse at the yard
Yes.
and then go to studio because the studio time was very limited. So a lot of Rastas came into the yard to make songs. John Holt, Stranger Cole, Heptones, all of them came to the yard. Ken Booth. So I met all of these greats at an early age. I was very glad, I was very happy to go when they sent me out to buy a split for them or to buy a stout for them. I feel honored, you know, that they see me. So they grew me up on the basis that I must come and represent them.
Okay.
They never encouraged me to do laziness or slackness or deviation. So you take a book because you go and come and represent us. I always remember that. So I was very honored to go and buy a split for them and so on, you know. So it is that that I grew up with. So I knew a lot of the greats from a very early age. I would see some people would come for Brother Gladdy, wanting to go and play for them. And he would say, no, I'm busy, can't go. After I'm gone, he tell me, say, they want to come put on junk on the clothes and them type of thing. Because Barely usually have black and white vests and all them. Yes. So as Rastafari, I was very seasoned, you know, and I knew what I want. So I didn't know at university. Before I reached university, I used to do a lot of reading. I was reading books like Soul That Brother. That was a very influential book, with George Jackson. I was reading books like Wretch of the Earth. I was reading books like Godfather. Really showed me what the mafia looked like. And numerous other books that I was reading. And gradually now, at university, I was more reading books that pointed me to His Imperial Majesty, Rastafari. Okay. So one of the first things I did was, when I got a little knowledge, I made sure get a picture of His Majesty and put up in my house in Barbados. First, I like a picture would show his nobility. Yes. That whole heap of badges and all that. I liked it. So from the first point of view, now I could boast that him is the highest ranking nobility. So when people come and ask me, I say, no, it's the highest rank nobility because nobody else can come with more emblems and achievements than him. Yes. And then gradually now, I get to realize that he's not only noble, but it's him himself. When His Majesty came here in 1961, yes, I was a Cub Scout. I was going to... You mean 1966? 1966. When His Majesty came, 66. Yes. I was a Cub Scout. And there were two other brothers living on the road. They were Audley and Everton Facey. And the two of them, along with myself, we wanted to go to the stadium to see His Majesty because we had heard so much about him. So the Rastafari hold him in high esteem, so great. We can't make him come and we don't see him. So, but my mother didn't, because of the crowd, she didn't want to send me alone. Yes. So when Audley and Everton were going, their mother said she would come along with us. And we were little youths. How old were you at the time? 66 in come. I was born 1950. I was about 30. Okay. I was about 30. So their mother came along with us and we went to the stadium to see His Imperial Majesty. It was very glorious for me, glorious at that age and that stage because so much Rastaman living, come in the yard and so much Rastaman congregate beside the yard. There's an open land and whole heap of Rastas used to go there. And I remember the write up on the wall, INRI, I-N-R-I, I Nigos rule Israel. So that stood out to me. So I want to see who is this Negro that rule Israel.
Okay.
So we went to the stadium. Now, but before we go to the stadium, I said to myself, boy, this crowd that going to be at the stadium, as a little youth, we now get near to His Majesty. So, although at that time, I don't think we were Cub Scouts then, in actual fact, but we were Cub Scouts before. So we had the uniform. So I suggested to the other two, let us wear our uniform and go to the stadium so that we get to go near to His Majesty and get to see him. So I put on my Cub uniform and the three of us, and we went so that I could get near to His Majesty. Yeah, that was interesting.
Using the intellect.
Yeah, man.
To solve the problem.
We wouldn't get near.
Yes.
The crowd. So we went to the stadium, where the big crowd. But the first thing that impressed me was to see the Rasta man them in them robes. Man, when we come Kingston, the man didn't come out of the hills at all. And to see the man there, I said to myself, I'm looking at Moses, I'm looking at Aaron, I'm looking at Isaac, I'm looking at Jacob. That's all I in my little self.
Yes.
Because the man them looks so regal, so royal, so powerful. Every one of them looked tall to me, very tall, very powerful. Man, I was so impressed. And I said, oh, I like tried one day, look like them, and so on. You know, they look so good.
Mighty.
So right. So His Majesty now, when we went to the stadium, it was crowd upon crowd. So again, I want to get near. So being in my uniform, my Cub Scout uniform, His Majesty was sitting in the royal box, and the three of us, we went near to the royal box, right on the periphery of the royal box, in the stadium. And His Majesty, it was so crowded, even around the royal box. But for us to see him, we ended up behind him, His Majesty.
Okay.
And when we looked at him now, and that was when, just out of the ordinary, His Majesty looked behind him and waved to us. I'll never forget that.
Mighty. So that impact at 13, obviously, you went to college with that embedded inside of you. You start to grow your Congo at the university in Barbados. What is the next stage of your development after leaving university now with a covenant? What was the next stage of your life?
No, university is a big thing now.
Okay.
Because going to Barbados in the Eastern Caribbean, you're now amongst other brethren and sisters. And I was fortunate enough in the sense that whilst in Barbados, you had the Desmond Trotter case going on.
Yes.
You know, because he was tried for a crime which he did not commit. So, being in Barbados, we set up a UDS, University Declaration of Students, something like that. And we collected money, get up funds. That case endeared me to lots of other brethren and so on in the Caribbean, because we collected money now to pay the lawyers. And Maurice Bishop was one of the lawyers for Desmond Trotter.
Okay.
So I'm going over to Dominica to pay Maurice Bishop and to meet other lawyers now to say, look, you got to save his brother. And then Desmond Trotter's brother, Vivian Trotter, came to Barbados and we arranged a meeting there, a fundraising event and a meeting that he could explain to the students and explain to the other people the importance of the case. So that you know, even before I leave university, I was involved in this type of movement, and we supported Desmond Trotter to the best of our ability. Although he was still convicted, we still continue our support. So that endeared me to the Eastern Caribbean a lot. I made sure I traveled to all the islands in the Eastern Caribbean. I made sure we did certain work. So whilst there, the amount of work, we had brothers and sisters now in when the case of the Grenada Revolution, a group of I, Brother Seiko, Rashango Bako, a group of us went to Grenada, and we wanted to keep a Rasta conference in Grenada because we knew Bishop from the Desmond Trotter case. We went to see Bishop and we explained to him. He put us on to a man named Ouso and said Ouso would carry out the logistics to make sure the Rasta conference keep. So we met brothers like Nang Nang and other brothers in Grenada now, and so on. But Ouso was a terrible man. So by the time we were there, we started the planning, but I had to go back to St. Lucia. But by the time I reached St. Lucia, I hear that Desmond Trotter, who had been free by the time, came to Grenada and also lock up Desmond Trotter. So I had to call, there's a brilliant lawyer named Miles Fitzpatrick. Miles Fitzpatrick is from Guyana. I had to call Guyana and say, Miles Fitzpatrick and said, please, you've got to make sure that Desmond Trotter is released. And so I fly back now to Grenada, and Desmond Trotter was released. Then from Grenada, we flew to Trinidad, myself and Desmond Trotter, and they lock us up for the night.
Wow.
in Trinidad, because we couldn't get a flight out to go where we want to go. So we just had to go take the first flight out of the place, which was going to Trinidad. That's where me and Desmond Trotter went. And they locked us up for the night, and the next morning, they allowed us out. So, you know, we go through some great, because the only reason why I'm locked
How old were you at this time?
That time we would have been, let me see, that time, no, I was a lawyer.
Okay. So
No,
you're a young
was I-
attorney, still early in your
yes.
profession.
Yes. Desmond Trotter, otherwise called Ras Kabinda.
Yes,
He's a-
legendary.
Yes, he's in Ethiopia now.
Yes.
he's
I'm
a
in
great-
contact with him. We'll have him on this platform. I'm sure we'll interview him on this platform. Legendary
great soldier.
story. Yes, and a legendary story because he was freed by a hurricane.
Yes.
Marcus Garvey came down in a whirlwind and freed the brethren. So that story is one of the legendary stories in the annals of Rastafari.
Yeah,
And
man.
he went to Shashamane, where he still resides today. He has been at the forefront of the development in Shashamane and a lot of work. So we'll definitely reach out to Ras Kabinda to come on this platform. Ras Sekou also spoke of that that time. He also spoke about the first anniversary of Grenada, where many were invited to Grenada to celebrate the first anniversary of the revolution.
Yes.
He spoke about the iron and chatting to see Harold Marcus. But I don't want to jump forward too far because there's so
Yes.
much tradition. Talk to us about some of your works in the Eastern Caribbean as a young attorney, because this is where some of the legend of Ras Miguel was forged. Your work in the Eastern Caribbean and your time spent outside of Jamaica. And I'm sure that many in Jamaica are not fully abreast of your work in the Caribbean?
First of all, the Caribbean is a beautiful place, and our work there, whereas the work was brilliant at that time. This was in the 70s. At that time, it was common for countries to put back Rastafari on the plane. When I landed in Dominica, I told them they wanted to put me back on the plane. And it was only when I told them I was there to see the Prime Minister that what I wanted was the plane to leave. So when I told them that now, they were in a quandary, because they wouldn't want somebody who come to see the Prime Minister put back on the plane. So better judgment prevailed. So when the plane leave now, I felt good. They called the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister Eugenia Charles was out of the country, and the acting Prime Minister was Brian Allain. He was the acting Prime Minister. And I knew that he had a brother, Rasman Peter, who's a lawyer now. Okay. He had a brother who's a Rastafarian and who had trod with Desmond Trotter.
Okay.
So I knew when he heard that I'm at the airport and so on, I knew he couldn't put me back on a plane, because I'd gone to a conference where he was at, and I told him, oh, Rastafarians were being put back on plane, even when they go to many of these islands, including Dominica. And he told the conference, no, what I was saying was not true. They don't put you back on the plane in Dominica. So he now, when they contacted him from the airport and so on, so the commissioner of police carried me from the airport to see him. I said, boy, this man says he's here to see you. So he says, but I do an appointment to see you, Ras Miguel. I said, no, but remember the conference when I told him that they put people back on the plane, you said no. So notice that this commissioner of police was going to put me back on the plane. So I had to tell him to have an appointment to see you. So the whole thing, the long and short of it, was that they give me a certain time in the country. I didn't need all that time. Yeah. I just wanted to address the brothers on Africa Liberation Day. That was what we were celebrating. And then I wanted to move out. So in quite some islands I went, they gave me 1 day. 1 day I had to think. But by then, I knew how to live. So although, for example, when I went to St. Kitts, they gave me 1 day. But 1 day, I showed the film of His Majesty visit to Jamaica. I traveled with it with me. I showed the film at 3 different places in that 1 day. You know, we went around and we showed the film. And we had a reasoning, we had drumming. So in the night, when the last plane was leaving, and they see me come at the airport, because they were hoping that I overstay, you know. They gave me 1 day, they was hoping I overstay, that them could arrest me.
Yes.
But that didn't happen. I did my duty, I showed the film, and I was able, you know, and so on. And they were surprised that I was ready to go on the plane and leave after 1 day. That's in St. Kitts.
Yes.
In going to Tortola now, I was actually going to do a case to represent a family named Skelton family. And in Tortola, they had a rule that no Rastafari is allowed. In going over to, I went to Tortola and presented my papers and everything. I was now going back to the trial because it's an interesting case and I should really find out how it ended. There was a piece of land that the Skelton family had occupied for years. Over 100 years, the family had lived there. Some Scottish people came to Tortola and wanted to capture the land because the land was the land that loved the beach and they wanted to build a hotel and the family didn't want it. The father of the family was a Garveyite And he said, no, his grandchildren will come and build a hotel. He's not giving up the land. So the government saw him as an obstacle, but he stood strong. So they used the aspect of Rastafari now and wanted to keep me out. When I landed, I remember the Premier airline. We landed in Tortola. On our way over to Tortola, there were 2 pilots on the plane. One pilot was very frantic, very frantic, and there were some of the passengers who were very frantic. I didn't know why, but I just sat down cool. When we landed now, we realized that the plane had developed an engine leak and could have blown up any time.
Okay.
So we were very, when they told me, I said, boy, there's no prayers, you know. The Prime Minister or the Premier of Tortola came to the airport at night and ordered that the plane fly out and that I be taken out of the country. The pilots told him, no, they cannot fly a passenger on the plane because the plane had developed a gas leak. It's bad. He said that he will lock me up and lock the pilots up. I angrily him said because a taxi man at the airport whispered to me and tell me that he's a Batman. So what they had to do, the headline, the head company for the plane was based in Puerto Rico. So that night, no, they raided Puerto Rico to send a plane for me because by international law, they could put me on a plane that the engine is leaking.
Yes.
So they sent a plane specially for me. They had to put, because I was the only passenger, they had to put sandbags on the plane. I didn't know that you had to do that because the plane would have been too light.
Okay.
So they had to put sand in the seat that you'd have passengers. They put sandbag because I was the only passenger, and then they flew me to Puerto Rico, and so the pilots now was able to fly the sick plane behind my plane and come to Puerto Rico the night. So that's a whole episode.
This is an important history because a lot of people wouldn't believe that level of discrimination happened to Rastafari.
And I'm a lawyer.
And
all because I stand Rastafari.
Exactly.
In
so when
Puerto
we
Rico,
talk about reparation, you know, we have to look at internal reparation in the Caribbean because there was a lot of economic damage done to the community because of these discriminatory policies. You know, this is in contravention to the Declaration of Human Rights that guarantees freedom of movement and things, and this is discrimination on the base of a way of life. So I'm glad that you are, you know, sharing this experience with our viewers, because some of our viewers are young and they've grown up in a world where locks are, you know, everywhere to be seen as a fashion, and you know, they're on t-shirts, and every Caribbean island is using them in their tourist trade to try to entice tourists to their shores. But that was not always the case, and I'm glad that you are highlighting what you have lived in terms of the persecution and how you were traveling through the Caribbean to try to champion those without a voice. So talk to us about, you know, what were some of the notable moments from this period of your travel?
Well, when the plane took me to Puerto Rico the night, Mark, at that time I didn't have any US visa or anything like that.
Yes.
But of course, they told me that would be a problem. While sitting in the manager's office, the manager of the airline at the airport in Puerto Rico, while sitting there in the night, I saw a BIIA, British West Indian plane.
Yes.
So when I looked through the glass, from top glass, I saw the plane, and I knew the Caribbean well. So I know that hour of the night, the plane is flying south. Any plane flying south must be going to either Barbados or Trinidad as their home base. So I asked the manager, can I go on it? Because I'd prefer to be in a Caribbean country other than Puerto Rico, because all I was thinking of is that Puerto Rico, them so much pork, so much this. I didn't want that.
Yes,
So
yes.
the plane was going south to Antigua and then to Trinidad. So you should see me, the manager, was the one who carried my bags. You carry my bags, you should see the two of us, because the passenger carried to load the plane. Couldn't go fast enough. And you should see us running, my brother, running, you know. So the manager tell them to hold the plane. And so they swing me up through the pilot door in the front. They swing me up now. So the plane stopped at the beginning of the runaway and had to wait for me and so on. So I swing up, I go in the plane. So I do have no ticket to go to Antigua, you know, I do have no ticket. So when people are wondering what holding up the plane, them see me up here. So I traveled to Antigua tonight. I traveled to Antigua tonight. And this is where I have to mention Ras Tafari. When I landed at the airport in Antigua, Antigua too had a policy that they did not allow Rastafarians to come in the country.
Okay.
So I had to call Ras Tafari tonight. But I could have come off plane either in Antigua or Trinidad. But trying to know Ras Tafari more, I come off plane in Antigua. When I phoned Ras Tafari tonight, he had to come to the airport in his pajamas. He came in his pajamas.
Wow.
Because they would allow me to come in if somebody would vouch for me.
Yes.
So Ras Tafari came late night to the airport, and that was how I was allowed to come in. So it was a really dramatic day that day, my brother.
When are we gonna see the Ras Miguel feature film? Is something in the work? Something in the works, I'm hoping, because this is cinematic.
Yes. I leave up to you all.
So talk about your work. When did you return to Jamaica?
I returned to Jamaica about 1981.
Okay.
Yes, I did some work also in St. Lucia.
Okay.
And, you know, so I
that's the home of Bongo Wisely, our great
Yes.
elder there. What was the work that you did in St. Lucia?
Well, we had to form the Ayanola Rastafari gathering there.
Okay.
And some other court work and so on, you know.
Was that after Bongo Watu went to those places, or before Bongo Watu traveled to those places? And for those who are not familiar, Bongo Watu was a Nyabingi elder who traveled through the Caribbean, spreading the Nyabingi order to most of these islands. I'm not sure the exact dates, but was that before or after Bongo Watu had traveled to these places?
It was before.
Before, okay.
No, Bongo Watu, because I remember Bongo Watu came to the Students' Union at the University of the West Indies in Barbados.
Okay.
When he came with himself and Ikeal.
Yes.
Himself and Ikeal Tafari.
Yes.
Of blessed memory. And Ras Nesbet. The three of them came to campus and they beat the Rastafari drum, beat the Nyabingi drum. So they went before me. As a matter of fact, I remember the newspapers in Barbados, because they said Ikeal looked like Jesus, you know, with his locks coming down. I said, boy, Ikeal looked like Jesus. And Bongo Watu looked like Daniel, because with him nuts going up in the air and so on. So this was very strange to Barbados. In a way, they were saying, boy, we send Ikeal to university in Jamaica and him come back now with dreadlocks and all of them things there. And thing. But you know, Ikeal was very was very articulate.
Yes,
He could explain. He's a brilliant man.
He was
Very
from the high
brilliant.
society in Barbados too, right?
Yes. But being articulate, and he read a lot and all that, he was able to explain Rastafari in such a dynamic sense that even those who don't like Rastas, but they might love IK. So that helped me a lot now on the campus, that as a young Ras now, and so on. So IK was in Jamaica when I was in Barbados.
Okay.
When IK come back to Barbados, I was in Jamaica.
Okay. So when you were in St. Lucia, what year are we talking about?
We're talking about 79 to 81.
Okay.
Thereabouts.
And you're saying that was before Bongo Watu had tried to St. Lucia?
But yes.
But there was
no. But I correct myself. That was after.
After.
Yes.
So there was already a Nyabinghi Foundation in St. Lucia at that time.
Yes, but it wasn't so strong.
Wasn't that strong? Okay, excellent. So you were in St. Lucia, working with the community, helped to establish. Did you meet Bongo Wisely at that time?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, give thanks. And then after St. Lucia, what was the trajectory?
By that time, I was homesick.
Yes.
So I want to come back to Jamaica to work.
Okay.
So I came back to Jamaica.
And then upon your return to Jamaica, what was your, what was life like being away from Jamaica for so long, grounded now in the Caribbean? What was Jamaica like? And this is the early 80s?
Yes. Jamaica was very, was still colonial. I got my first job in Jamaica at the Halfway Tree Courts.
Okay.
And they employed me. And after about 2 months, I worked in that job for 2 months. And then they fired me.
Wow.
Fired me from the court because the court administrator said they didn't realize that I have dreadlocks when they were hiring me. And so they gave me my dismissal letter.
Wow. So you yourself faced discrimination as a result of your faith in your home country. What did that make you feel like?
Make me realize I fight more.
Yes.
I fight more because when I reached away it,
yes.
You know what I mean? And I wanted other young attorneys, to feel free. There were other brethren who had Rastas in them, but were afraid to grow their locks.
Yes.
I want to show them that you can grow your locks and be mighty and powerful.
Wow. And so after being fired, what was your next move after leaving the courthouse?
I decided to try the earth as Rastafari.
Yes.
As to whether or not it was proper for a Rastafari to be a lawyer.
Okay.
Because I had to search myself. So I go amongst brethren, I go amongst Bingy brethren, I go up to the hills and so on. I spent about 2 years journeying amongst I and I.
Okay.
Because I remember reading a passage in the Bible where Jesus said, "Woe unto you lawyers, because you have taken knowledge for yourself."
Okay.
When I saw that, I said, wow, but you have taken knowledge for yourself. So I decided to complete the law and to be a lawyer now. When I read that passage, because I said, no, if I do not take knowledge for myself, but I disseminate knowledge, this is why I'm on radio. I'm not being paid to be on radio. So if it's even 1 day a week, I go on radio, I do other things. In other words, I must display that I'm not taking knowledge for myself.
For yourself, you're sharing with the community. And
yes.
What was your re-entry into the law after that sojourn in the hills?
Well, I'm amongst the brothers and sisters and the average lawyers, very good, very proud. But the judges were always, there were quite a few judges. 1 and 2 was good, but they were, the majority of judges would wish that I did not exist.
Wow. So the discrimination did not stop upon your return. Do you feel that you were given justice, or do you feel like it impacted your clients, how the judges felt about you?
It did. It did impact on my clients. And there were some clients who felt that they would not get justice, so they would go to another lawyer. So that directly impacted your income at the time as well, I would imagine. Yes, it did. But when we start out, we were not driven by income. Yes, we were driven by a mission. Yes, and when His Majesty waved to me at the stadium, that was my appointment. When His Majesty waved to me at the stadium when he was sitting in the royal box. In other words, He has now appointed me that I must do Rastafari works, and that must be the paramount in my mind. So let's talk about His Majesty, because one of the things I love about the I learned so much about His Majesty from the We know that in Rastafari we have a lot of brethren who are Rastafari, but they're more Rasta on the basis of the culture, meaning they don't know much about Kadamawi, Haile Selassie and his reign, and they can't call up much facts. You're not one of those brethren, because the first time I learned about some of the court cases that were filed by His Majesty for the injustices of foreign companies as it relates to development in Ethiopia, the cable and wireless and all of these cases, I learned these things from reasoning with the and this intrigued my young mind as a young attorney. Talk to us about your research into Haile Selassie and what convinced you that this small man in stature, short man, this figure from across the sea, who all of these trappings. How do you come to the realization that this man is the Almighty in flesh and bone on the throne of David? His Majesty is very legal, very legal, very loyal, and His Majesty deal with the law, which the greatest lawgiver must be the Almighty. Because His Majesty is the only head of state that I read about, that I know about, that give the people a constitution, as head of state.
Yes.
We can see the example right now. It's the other way around. The people are asking for certain things that have to take power. You know what I mean? His Majesty, no, he divested power from himself.
Yes.
By giving them a constitution.
Critical point.
Yes, he had absolute power, but he divested from himself by 1931 when he gave the people of Ethiopia a constitution. Right through in the cable and wireless case, up to now we don't get justice in that case, because His Majesty brought the case in the English courts. He won the case because he had given cable and wireless a certain amount of money for them to run certain cables in Ethiopia. They started the work, but the war came and they were not able to finish the work. So His Majesty in England at the time, when he needed resources, he asked cable and wireless for the money. This is a trick. Cable and wireless now said, you are no longer authority Ethiopia. The Italians are now in authority. And therefore, cable and wireless says, and if anybody is entitled to the money, it's King Emmanuel as the head of state of Italy. So at first instance, they ruled in favor of His Majesty. The day before, on the 1st of November, which is the coronation, the 2nd of November. The 1st of November, Cable and Wireless invited King Emmanuel of Italy to join in the case and to petition for the money. And the court at the appeal level now ruled that the money must not be given to Haile Selassie. It must be given to Italy. And that was what happened in that case.
Wow.
It's a very crucial case, very important case. There were many other cases that His Majesty participated. For example, most people don't know that His Majesty brought a case in the International Court concerning Namibia.
Yeah.
Namibia was deemed a trustee country, and they had appointed Namibia to South Africa. And South Africa at that time was under apartheid.
Yes.
His Majesty brought a case in the International Court to say, no, you can't give Namibia to South Africa. And then, strangely enough, Marcus Garvey had also petitioned that to make Namibia the home of UNIA members. And they said no. And the other countries gathered together. And so by a majority of 8-7 ruled that Namibia go to South Africa and not to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
There are other cases, there are many other cases that His Majesty brought. There was a case, a brewer company. But another important case was that His Majesty, His Majesty did so much to my brother. We just make noise and talk. His Majesty, the Bank of Ethiopia,
Yes.
did not get recognition during His Majesty from the international financial world. So, but His Majesty wanted a Bank of Ethiopia. So on the international scene, His Majesty now used the Bank of Egypt to do his international work for him.
Yes.
So he put a certain amount of money in the Bank of Egypt, but the money was ostensibly for Ethiopian international duties. Egypt being vexed and conniving because His Majesty removed the head of the church from Egypt.
Yes.
And many ones don't know what go on behind the scene now. Egypt confiscated the money that belonged to the Abyssinian Bank, the Ethiopian Bank.
Okay.
When His Majesty asked them for the money, them play all sorts of games and shenanigans. His Majesty now had to bring a case against Egypt, while it's in England, for the money.
Okay.
Up to this day, they have not given that money to His Majesty. So, all these cases I read up, I study up, and say, wow, His Majesty. So I have not given up, even though I've spoken to Ethiopians. When I went to Ethiopia, I met with the Attorney General. The Attorney General at that time, the people, the Tigrians were in power when I went to Ethiopia.
Yes, yes.
So they were not so favorable to my arguments. But I showed them it's important that they support us in our fight to get dignity. So it is something I've to deal with. I must point out that when I first went to Ethiopia, I went to Ethiopia from Ghana. I did not have an Ethiopian visa. And I slept at the airport the night and they put me back on the plane next morning. It's ironic because when I looked into one of the bookshops at the airport, I saw there was a book on Ethiopia, which I have printed. So I said to them, imagine my book is here and I can't be here. And so I look at the chart and I see those countries that can come in without visa to Ethiopia. And I, a black man from black country, can't enter. So that's one of the great travesty. I was so glad when the Tigrayans were kicked out.
Give thanks, give thanks. There's a lot of tribal strife. I've been doing a series on Ethiopia on my channel. We're praying for the peace and the end to tribal and ethnic conflict between Ethiopians at this moment. So in terms of, you mentioned your book, talk to us about Head Start Publishing, when Head Start got started. Obviously, you have a long-standing relation with Frontline Publishing as well, but Head Start was another name that when I was a young Ras in university and I started reading books, this was a reoccurring name that I would see imprinted on many of the books that we were feeding our minds with. You know, I went, you know, I had a whole cohort of Rasses that I went to Howard University with, and we read voraciously. Headline, Head Start, and Frontline were you know, regulars among. So when did Head Start, the idea come from, and when did that start?
Head Start, well, remember now, in the Eastern Caribbean, when I was in St. Lucia, Raseko and Shango was over in Trinidad.
Yes.
And I would go over to them. I remember people like Kimani Langa, Raseko, Rashango, some of the Rasses, because we would sleep on Seiko's bed. 5, 6 of us would sleep on Seiko's bed when we were doing the newspaper Rastafari Speaks.
Yes, historic.
So that's where the publishing started from, and that's where. So after we set it up, Shango would do the typing. Whenever I have computer, them time there, and we would not only with our little money, we would print it, pay the printers, and we would be the one walking on the road and selling it. So that was how it started. That was how the publishing idea started. So as we go along, whatever I put out, Raseko is part of it. Whatever Raseko put out, I am a part of it. And out of that grow, we branch off into other books and so on. And so we have a publishing company that we print and publish books.
And what are some of the titles that Head Start has published?
The Philosophy and Opinion, of course.
Yes.
Basic Herbs. The volume 1, we haven't printed the volume 2 yet.
Yes.
The volume 1 of His Majesty's biography.
Yes.
And so on. But the key thing is people like Professor Eulendorf.
Yes.
Before he passed, he had sent me Ethiopia and the Bible.
Yes.
For us to put it out. We have quite a number of works to put out, quite a number of works. That's why I said, coming like every day, the work just begun.
Yes, and I'm glad that you have that perspective. Now, we're not going to take too much more of your time. It's in the middle of the day, and you've been gracious to speak with us today. Your life has not been without controversy in the press. I wanted to give you an opportunity to address some of the controversy you've been through in Jamaica. You lost your license and regained it again. What was that journey like?
That journey of losing my license to practice law set us back.
Yes.
Set us back considerably because I have a lot of children. You know, I have 17 children.
Wow.
You know, even now as I speak to you, I have 4 children at university.
Wow.
Including a daughter who's studying law.
Wow.
And you know,
How
I have
old
a
is your
son,
youngest? How old is your youngest child?
about 20,
Okay.
19.
Okay,
19.
so they're all, yes.
Yes, so we say I have 4 children going to university, and we have 2 in college, and so on. I just wish to say that as I'm speaking to you now, we have a lawsuit against the government.
Okay.
We have sued them for over $100 million. So that will come, that will be decided, and you know, that is going to be the reparations for me.
Okay, so that's related to the controversial.
Yes, it relates to
Debarment.
controversial because that is a case that was before the court, and the court of appeal went to court of appeal. My son argued the court of appeal at the court of appeal on my behalf.
Yes.
We won the case, but more importantly, not just winning the case, things that the court of appeal said, I should not even have been charged.
Wow.
So that is where the lawsuits come in.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. And it's important that we hear from the lion's own mouth, you know, because people talk and rumors float around, but until we hear directly from the eye, you know, we know that there is an injustice and that the eye has addressed it in the courts as an attorney should do. So we give thanks. Speak to us about your children, because you mentioned one of your sons is an attorney, another one. I know that most of your children are well accomplished. I met your daughter at CVM. I was there doing an interview and find out that, you know, she was the person interviewing me. So talk about some of your children, because they are very accomplished.
Yes, like I said, you have one that is an attorney, over next one that is now studying law. We have one that is a very, very, very good. He plays chess for Jamaica.
Okay.
And to the point where now he teaches chess.
Wow.
He teaches chess online. I have a chess set in my office. You know, I have a chess set in my office. And invariably, any children that come with their parents in my office always head to the chess set. You know, it's amazing. No matter what age you are, I have lots of little trinkets on my desk, because whenever I travel, I buy things. I buy crap.
Yeah.
So if you look on my desk, I have a lot of trinkets. But the children gravitate towards the chess set.
The chess set.
See, one of my daughters, she lives in England now. When she was 7 years old, she represented Jamaica in chess.
Wow.
And she beat the American in the age group level she was playing. At 7 years old, she played in the under 10. And she beat the American champion in 7 moves.
Wow.
Man, I tell you. So I have always maintained that brain for brain, our children are brighter.
Yes.
It's just that later on, being big United States, opportunities are greater.
Yes.
You know, and the children will develop more. But brain for brain, we are brighter.
Wow. And as a testament to the parenting and vigilance that the children are thriving and doing well. So we give thanks for that. Now, in terms of the eye works with the community, can you just give us some highlights, maybe in the last 10 years of your works that you have been doing in the Rastafari and the Panafrican community? I know you got into politics with the PPP party. You're very active with Garveyites and so forth. So can you just give us some highlights in terms of the last 10 years that you have been putting forth?
Well, I, along with 3 other brothers, Brother Moses, Brother Moore, and so on, 3 other brothers, in 2000, we reformed the Marcus Garvey People's Political Party. This is a party that was formed in 1929. And so we revived that party. We have been struggling ever since, but it's because of our principles. Because what we're doing at the moment, we have set up a farm. We call it Liberty Farm. We set up 2 farms, one in Liberia, and one in Jamaica. The one in Jamaica, we're now aiming plant over 10,000 pineapples.
Mhm.
We have planted a portion of pineapples, and we want to plant over 10,000 pineapples. We're hoping that the farm, it is from the farm, will generate enough income from the farm and use that money to build the party. That's what we're aiming for.
Yes, yes.
The party still exists. They meet here. I built a particular Africa hall
Yes.
where we keep party meetings. So I'm very much involved in the politics of Jamaica. We feel that the PNP and the JLP, which they can be beaten, but just take proper organization, because what they use now is money
Yes.
to buy the votes and to bribe the people. But one day the people's eyes are gonna open, and when it does, we'll be there to harness it.
And I'm so happy that you talk about the economic base and the importance of establishing an economic base. Traditionally, as Rastafari, we've been very opposed to economics and business. I've been championing on my channel that Haile Selassie was a businessman. Empress Menen was a businesswoman. And so when we lick out against business and economics as Rastafari, we are actually moving against the teachings of His Imperial Majesty, who was very clear about the necessity. I mean, he went as far as to say a government without money is like a body without a soul.
Yes.
And use these type of strong language. Why do you think that, and in the words of my brethren Ras Makapi in Tanzania, that Rastafari have made poverty a badge of honor? And do you agree with that sentiment? And why, if you do, why do you think that has been the case?
I could never agree with that sentiment, because that sentiment means poverty. One night, coming from a Nyabingi in St. Mary, and I gave some bridges a lift. And because coming from St. Mary now, I live up in Stony Hill.
Yes.
So you have to pass Stony Hill to go into Kingston.
Yes.
So I said to the brethren and sisters, I always drive a van.
Yes.
Because, I always have people carry. So I said to the brethren and sisters, stay at my house, until in the morning now, I will carry you all into Kingston. During the night, Ma Shanti and Pa Shanti were 2 of the brethren and sisters that were there.
Yeah.
So naturally, being elders and being senior persons, I would even have given them my own bed, but I had other beds around. So when I show Ma Shanti and Pa Shanti the guest room, within an hour after showing them the guest room, I see Pa Shanti walking up and down the place, looking for cardboard to sleep on the veranda. I said, Pa, no, you don't sleep on the veranda. You come and sleep on the bed. I had to go a whole heap to convince him to sleep on the bed with Ma. I realized that the brethren have suffered so much that when you try to take them, they had developed that it's almost a badge of honor.
Yes.
for Rastafari to suffer.
Yes.
That's what I realized from the passion takes for you. You're proud to suffer, because if you don't suffer, you're not Rastafari.
Yes.
And so I had to struggle to make them realize that no, we don't have to suffer. We don't have to. So it took a lot out of me, many times. At my place here now, there's a cook shop downstairs, my place.
Yes.
And there's a I do run the cook shop, and our brethren run it. But every day, the brethren have to give a lunch, give a food, you know, because there's so much still in our community. We have had brethren and sisters who have made it comfortable out of music.
Yes.
But there's still a large portion of brethren
yes.
that have it hard every day. So whenever they come to me for food, I can refer them to the cook shop, because I know they'll get, if it's even a sip, they'll get something.
Yes.
And I will take it. I will pay for it.
Yes. So you agree that some of our brethren and sisters have taken poverty as a badge of honor?
Yes. And they are brilliant. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
My house, a lot of the mason work was done by Bongo Time. He's a brilliant mason.
Yes.
But most brethren never seen the mason work yet.
Okay.
But when I realized, I was told by a brethren that he's a brilliant mason. I said, what? So I in a way employed him.
Yes.
And so forth. And I had to work with him because, you know, he goes after Nayabingi.
Yes.
Work have to stop. But he's a brilliant mason.
Yes. I learned that from Nana Faraika, who said that her father employed many of the brethren, Raspidal, Bongo Time. A lot of them were skilled tradesmen.
Bongo, what's his name again? I'm seeing him right now. He passed recently.
Bongo Smithy?
No, he had gone up to the brethren them. The slim brethren. It's who come to him, but he's also a brilliant mason himself.
Okay.
And quite a couple others.
Yes.
So when I know, naturally I choose Rastafari to build anything that I'm building, you know. Bongo Sheffan. Yes. Yes, he's a good mason also.
Okay.
He's a person that I have employed.
Yes.
And I see the goodness of them.
Wow.
But after the work for me and so on, I don't send my work for nobody else.
Yes.
You know, Bongo Isla, who used to live with Rasta Ivy,
yes.
He's a very good tiler. When him tile your house, it's safe so long. He's a very good tiler, brilliant tiler. He has tiled my house. So, you know, we have some very, very great brother and skilled brother in the community.
But yet still poverty persists.
Yes.
We do not have a business culture.
Yes.
And this goes, you know, I have to big up 12 Tribe to an extent, because I think they have done it the best. But even in 12 Tribe, I think they would agree that, you know, they could have gone further in terms of business, but they were traditionally seen as the business house of Rastafari, but particularly within the Nyabingi. And I think Bobo Shanti, during the time of Prince Emmanuel, they had the broom and the industry. I just interviewed Priest Lamont, and he was speaking about during Emmanuel time how they were so industrious in terms of the brooms and the crafts and these things, but we haven't developed a business culture, and this is so important as we move forward into this era of repatriation. So it's so much to talk about. We're you know, I don't want to stretch it out. This will have to be a part one, because there's so much that we can touch on. Your work spans so many decades, and it's so powerful. Just finally, before we seal up, talk about the work you're doing on Best FM, and then let the people know how they can contact you, how they can support head start, how any works that you want to highlight, or you want my audience, which is the Lion Pride, to support and to be aware of the work that you're doing. So talk about the Best FM, and then talk about how ones can contact and reach them.
Best FM is owned by Rastafari.
Yes.
And so I decided, I used to do the Sunday morning program on IRFM, you know.
Okay, I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know. Yes. I am the one who set the stage that Sister Cabo is now doing on IRFM for years and so on.
Okay.
So I had that experience. I did a couple of years at IRFM and then take a break. And then when Best FM came on the scene now, I put a proposal to the owner. He liked it. And so I jumped on board every Wednesday between 6 and 10 o'clock. I did a program, Bitter Sugar.
Yes.
Bitter Sugar on Best FM. In terms of what I would like now is that the farm, Liberty Farm, is in St. Catherine.
Yes.
It's not too far. To give people an idea, it's not too far from Pinnacle.
Yes.
I need help. I need help on the farm. So if a brethren listening and can give a day, every now and then give a day work, we can plant more pineapples. I'm into pineapples.
Okay.
You know. What drove me into pineapples was that we used to plant corn, we plant other things, and the people and goats in the area used to eat it down. When I plant pineapple, the goats don't eat that.
Okay.
So, you know, and because I love pineapples otherwise.
Yes.
So generally, you know, we need that help. In other areas now, we're planning to put out a newspaper because I have my own printing press.
Yes.
I have a two-color Heidelberg printing press.
Okay, excellent.
And I have a small Davison. So we're planning to put out our own newspaper so that people can get an idea of what we're doing.
Okay.
So the work is there, my brother. The work is there.
We give thanks for you taking the time this afternoon to speak to us, to speak to our audience. This is a great honor, as I said, for myself as a young attorney, and I'm sure we're going to have aspiring attorneys that are Rastafari around the world. This audience spans around the world. We are building a multimedia infrastructure Rastafari owned on YouTube, which, as the I may know, is the second largest search engine on the planet. So, you know, we feel very important that we're in the space where young people are searching for information, YouTube. And so, you know, having this interview will serve as a repository. You know, when people search for Rastafari and the law, this will come up. So we definitely give thanks. And this will be part one of many. We will invite you forward anytime you have anything you want to share. You have a home here to get out your message. We're growing rapidly right now on the platform, and we are, you know, we're striving to continue to grow. So I just want to thank you again on behalf of our audience, the Lion Pride and the Lion Pride on Patreon. And it's so important that we speak to elders such as yourself because of the knowledge and the works, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to build out the car and the vehicle so that it operates not just for us, but for our children and our children's children. So thank the Ras Miguel. Thank everything that you are doing, that you have done, the sacrifices that you have made, because you could have relinquished Rastafari and become a huge multi-million-dollar attorney and, you know, all of the trappings in Jamaica, but you chose to stay with your community and suffer great sacrifice because of your decision to not cut your covenant, to hold fast to the Rastafari principle, You've taken a lot of slander, abuse over the years, misunderstanding, and you have stood firm in your tradition. And we give thanks for your steadfastness. And this is why we built this platform, specifically because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice.
Lion voice.
Alex, we're going to get on the 4-7-4-5. I'm going to go and smoke bang it tire. But the black kid with them put on Cuba and Zimbabwe. Not road. Hey, the Dejazmatch. Start him now.
Sometimes in this life you have to go your own way. Me pray for me brothers in Zimbabwe. For me Cuban sisters, I see them and say, the Almighty love all of the people same way. Me tell Babylon them fi open up the gate. Zimbabwe she reclaim her land, that's great. Me love the way the people in Cuba get educated. Me have to ask them in the West why them are so full of hate.
Them hate Mugabe and them hate Castro. Them come with them blockade and them embargo. Cause Castro tell them no and Mugabe tell them go. Them want exploit the land and take with full. Brainwash education and use and mislead the youth. Them kill Trayvon and them shoot Martin Luther. And millions get to Nigeria what they and still not make the news. Mafia trample Babylon and a Mickey and boat.
Sometimes in this life you have to go your own way. Me pray for me brothers in Zimbabwe. For me Cuban sisters, I see them and say, the Almighty love all of the people same way. Me tell Babylon them fi open up the gate. Zimbabwe she reclaim her land, that's great. Me love the way the people in Cuba get educated. Me have to ask them in the West why them are so full of hate.
Me love how the people of Cuba them educate me. Have to ask them in the West how them are so full of hate.
Me see them in the West, say them a big hypocrite. A full time now, them policies them have to switch. Them fight against Cuba, them say them a communist. Still them trade with China till China get rich. Them no like Zimbabwe, through them reclaim the land. Them no talk say it was stolen from Africans. Say them would buy it back.
Ooh.
No, the Queen of England.
Them they buy it back.
No, seems like it was a scam. The people get wise and them start make a stand. No government perfect, the youths overstand. The youth start rise, lend a helping hand. Highly Selassie I say, all nations have a plan. Sometimes in this life you have to go your own way. Me pray for me brothers in Zimbabwe. For me Cuban sisters, I see them and say, the Almighty love all of the people same way. Me tell Babylon them fi open up the gate. Zimbabwe she reclaim her land, that's great. Me love the way the people in Cuba get educated. Me have to ask them in the West why them are so full of hate.
That's why Babylon no like we. Yet them want we buy them Jordans and Nike. Yo, they have jails just to fight with. Ooh, Jordan and the one Charles Barkley.